Hey everyone, thanks for coming. Welcome to Freedom of Expression, where I want everyone to be able to freely express themselves without being told not to about anything. No, can't say Lord Voldemort around here. It's like say his name loud, proud. I don't care. You want to live in fear, then go jump in a cave. Sorry I wasn't able to post yesterday. There was an emergency hospital stuff going on, car accident. So it wasn't me, but someone else. And doing electrical work around here. And so power and internet, and I lost my Wi-Fi in the process. And I got to thinking about it. It's like, you know what? I really don't need that. I needed it a while ago. I had a laptop, but I don't have anything that's wireless. So, and it's just me. If I had kids and a spouse, maybe, but it's like, I don't think I'm going to mess with it, at least for now anyways. And I wanted to put something out for today, and I came across this. I read through a little bit of it, and it's like this whole thing is just another lying piece of trash article filled with fluff that means absolutely nothing. And so this is from MSN.com, and up here MSN, and this is from NBC News. The title is "No Charges to be Filed in the Death of Justin King, Black Man Fatally Shot by White Neighbor in Missouri." And it's like, you have told me absolutely nothing about anything. So what I saw, or what I understand whenever I read this, was no charges to be filed in the death of Justin King, because we're about to have Martin Luther King Day. So it's like, let's throw in Justin King's name in with Martin Luther King, because it's this weekend coming up with Martin Luther King Day. Or the whole weekend. I don't know. I don't keep track of that crap. It's like there's just the few holidays. There's Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, and that's about Valentine's Day. All the rest of them, it's like they want to throw in a holiday for every damn thing under the sun, and it's like, nope, don't recognize any of them. They're trash. Martin Luther King, great man, love what he had to say, but it's like he's not the only one. They're a dime a dozen. By now they're a dime a dozen. There's plenty of men and women all throughout history who have said and done great things, and it's just like, no, it has to be more unique than that. Anyways, black man. What the hell does black have to do with it? Fatally shot by white. Same thing. What does white have to do with it? It's like, I want to know what's going on. And they have said nothing in Missouri. And I know why they threw that in there. Because they want to portray the South as a bunch of southern redneck hillbillies. You know, that's what they're going with. Because that's what I get from the entire title of this whenever you put it all together. Yeah, a bunch of rednecks down there where Martin Luther King Day, where black man got shot by a white person. Shut up, man. You said nothing. I want to know why. It's like, if it's something like, if he was shot and killed because he was just sitting at home doing nothing, just watching TV, and somebody broke in, it's like, okay, well, yeah, that's messed up. But if it's the other way around and he broke into somebody's place who was just sitting around doing nothing, watching TV, then screw him. You know, so who's doing what? This says nothing. Absolutely nothing. By who is this? Marlene Lethkin, whoever this lying piece of trash is, because you just by the title alone, no charges would be filed in the death of black and Filipino. Oh, so what? Now he's mixed? Well, why did you leave out the Filipino part? Justin King, who was fatally shot by his white neighbor. It's like, again, with black, Filipino. So what? I do not care. Black people, Filipino people, white people, they all have good or bad. And these are all characteristics that you have no control over. That has the color of a person's skin has absolutely nothing to do with right or wrong, because those are not choices. But murder or killing, that's different. You, in some of these situations, you have a choice. You know, now if somebody's broken into your home and they're going towards your daughter's bedroom and they've got like a gun or a knife, that you don't really have so much of a choice in because you have to protect your little child or whatever. That's different. But it's still a little bit of a choice, but you're really being backed into a corner with that one. You have no choice whatsoever the way that you were born with whatever color your skin is. So it's just lying propaganda nonsense. Family members and witnesses have rejected the police narrative that King... I don't care what family members have to say about a damn thing. They're not lawyers. They're not cops or nothing. And witnesses, I don't care about witnesses either, because they're going to be about this much of the entire puzzle. It's like they saw what? Something. You know how often witnesses are wrong, or they only see this part? You see it all the time nowadays, because they will even record the damn thing, but they'll start recording halfway into it, or they won't even walk up into it until halfway into it. They don't know anything about what's going on. What was it, a few years ago with the Chicago riots where that one guy was killed and his sister was there, and CNN reported that, oh, the sister's asking for the stop of the violence, and they'd recorded it, and then they just flat out didn't include the next part because the very next line was go across 9 Mile and burn down the suburbs because we need our weaves. She was not advocating for peace at all. She was advocating for her weaves. So, no, screw all this. It's like, I want to know who's wrong, and I want to know who's right. And skin color doesn't have jack to do with it. So he was shot for trying to invade his neighbor's home. Well, okay, that doesn't sound so good. So, I mean, the way this should be titled is as neutral-based as possible, with just having as much facts as possible. Now, the witnesses and the family members can say all that they want to with saying that this is all wrong. I don't care. But if that's what they want to do, but the news outlet shouldn't be. Was shot for trying to invade his neighbor's home in a trailer park community in Bourbon. I don't care where it was. I don't care if it's in a trailer park, a condominium, an apartment. Does that really do anything? As far as I know right now, hell no. So I don't know why they're including this unnecessary fluff wordage here. About 75 miles southwest of St. Louis. Again, I do not care. Well, why in the hell do I care? I do not. Well, what does this have any kind of weight or clout towards the case? Because if so, then why aren't you bringing it up? Otherwise, you are just wasting my time with nothing. Because there should be plenty of other things to state about what actually happened. The news of charges not being brought comes one day after the inquest found that King died to justifiable homicide, a finding his family disputed. I don't care. I do not care if his family disputes it or not. You know what? I'm not going to be surprised for one damn second that his family, they were not there. They had absolutely nothing to do with it. That this is going to be like his parents and siblings, and that they live somewhere else. Or that, it sounds like they all live in a trailer park community, and so they were probably, from what it sounds like, he's being charged with entering one of his neighbors in this trailer park community. So, what, was his family with him? Chances are, I bet you money they weren't. I bet you they were in their trailer doing whatever the hell it is that they were doing for the day. I doubt they were all in this big gaggle just roaming around. Maybe they were, but you know what? I don't do that with my family. We just roam around, just do it. I don't know other people who do that, but maybe I'm wrong. I fully concur with the finding of the coroner's inquest panel, and I am declining to issue charges related to the death of Mr. King, Crawford County Prosecutor Attorney David S. Smith said in a release Wednesday. I guess the prosecuting attorney might be all right to know his name, because maybe there are some people who are reading this and they have a little bit more information to add to it, perhaps, I guess. But you could probably also take it out of there, because the people who are in the area, hopefully they know who the prosecuting attorney is. So I fully concur with the finding of the coroner's inquest panel. Okay, well, now that's something to go off of. This is not just the prosecuting attorney, but this is what the coroner and the inquest panel found off of it. Okay, it doesn't really talk about too much of it, but and declining to issue charges. Okay, well, I wish there was a little bit more detail with that. This is just propaganda right here. That's all this is. This is a picture of the kid with his daughter. But what does this have to do with anything? It's to garner sympathy. Because you know what you don't know? You don't. Why not? If he has a mugshot, then where's that? Has he been in prison or jail or juvie before? What about that? What about his previous criminal record? It's like his daughter's got absolutely nothing to do with it. Or did she break into the place as well? Did she hand a gun to him or something? I mean, why are they showing? It's like, you know what? He has a kid. So does like almost every other single person on the planet has a kid. So what? You know what? He has parents. Why don't you throw him in there too? It's like that changes nothing. Breaking the law is still breaking the law, whether if you have a kid or not. Just because you go out and have a child doesn't mean that you become a saint. There are plenty of parents where they kill their children. They have problems with drug addiction. They're in and out of prison. They've lost custody of their children. They have drug addiction, alcoholism. They beat their kids. All kinds of horrible things. Just because you have a child doesn't transform a person into a saint. Nimrod, what a name. Yeah, this guy's a Nimrod for sure. Nimrod Chappell Jr., the president of the Missouri NAACP, which is, as far as I care, is just a racist, profit-driven organization that is just absolute garbage, who is representing the King family. It's like, of course, because there's money involved, and that's what they want. And there's all the news coverage. Denounces Smith's decision. I don't care. I mean, of course he does now. They're the ones representing the King family. What do you think he's going to do? Oh, I think the Kings are wrong, but I'm going to represent them anyways. It's like, no. Trash. The failure of Crawford's County prosecutor to bring charges against the murder of Justin King is inexcusable, Chappell said. That said nothing. All you said are a bunch of fluff trigger words. It's like, if this is true, then tell the truth. So, for example, if this is true, then say, well, Mr. King was just sitting at home doing nothing, watching television, and then he got shot and killed. It's like, well, yeah. Then that would be the failure of the prosecutor to bring charges against the murder of Justin King, and that would be inexcusable. But that would be the truth, is to say what actually happened. This isn't the truth. This is just a bunch of BS nonsense. It's like, okay, if it's true, then where's your proof? Why not just say the truth? Instead, this sounds like, to me, it sounds like a big, huge lie. Because if the truth is that he wasn't doing anything, he was minding his own business, and he wasn't breaking and entering or whatever it was, it's like, then say that. Say the truth. Trash. The coroner's inquest was directed in a manner to give the jury evidence of justifiable homicide without presenting all the evidence or even pictures of the body. Okay, well, that's a little better. The coroner's inquest was directed in a manner to give the jury evidence of justifiable homicide. Well, keep going. Or how about this? How about instead of saying that they didn't give all of the evidence and that they put it in a way to make it look like that it was justified, then give the rest of it. I don't understand this. If you're saying that the way that they framed it was wrong, then where's the correct framing? Don't tell me it's wrong. Tell me the truth and tell me what the truth is with the correct wording of this. So without presenting all the evidence, it's like, yeah. You know what that sounds like to me? Is that they have all of this information because they did a full autopsy, which is what they usually do. And so they're not going to include things like he had lung problems because maybe he'd been smoking. It's like, yeah, they didn't present all the evidence because not all of it was relevant, which they don't say. They don't say anything about that they didn't present all the relevant evidence. They didn't present all the evidence. Okay, well then what was it that they didn't present? How about you specifically tell me what it is that they didn't present that would have changed it? It's like, well, they didn't present all of it. It's like, yes, because all of it isn't relevant. Or pictures of the body. Why didn't you do it? Why don't you have these pictures? Why don't you tell me what's in the pictures that would make people change their mind? Because again, it's the same thing. It's like, well, we don't have to show the pictures because it's redundant. We're telling you what it is. We have the pictures over here, but we don't need to show them because we're telling you. However, if the jury requests it, then they should be shown. And if the other side, if they want the pictures, then they want to present them. What's stopping them? It's not their fault that the prosecutors are doing their job. It's the fault that the defense is not doing theirs. It's like, if there's more that needs to be presented, that is exactly your job. So this is just fluff. King had moved to Bourbon from St. Louis to be closer to his daughter, Harleen, his family said. I don't care. What does that have to do with anything? This sounds like nothing but a jab at trying to get sympathy. It's like, I don't care. Good gesture or not, this has absolutely nothing to do with this. This is information that should not be here. This is just bias, lying trash. Family members and residents of the trailer park said King and the shooter, described as a white man in his 40s. Again, I don't care about his color and I don't care about his age. I don't give a damn if the person was black, white, man, woman, young, old, fat, thin, short. I don't care. I want to know why it happened. I do not care about these facts that do not matter because you cannot change them. It's like, well, what do you expect a 40-year-old to do? Would it have been better if he'd been in his 30s, 20s? Would it have been better if it had been a woman? Would it have been better if it would have been a black lesbian? It's like, no, it doesn't matter. It's a shooting. Someone died. I don't care. Tell me about the things that can actually be controlled. It's like taking a gun and loading it and pointing at someone and pulling the trigger. All those things can be controlled. Whether if it's man or woman, young or old, black or white, you have no choice over that. That they were friends too. Family members and residents of the trailer park said King and the shooter, described as a white man in his 40s, were friends. Well, that's interesting. It's like, well, then how did it come to a shooting if they're friends? I wish they would get on with it. The prosecuting attorney's office said the two had been neighbors for over a year and frequently socialized. Oh, well, why didn't they lead with this? Smith, summarizing the evidence in the case in his release, said that on the morning of November 3rd, that the day King was shot, King and the shooter had helped neighbors search for their missing dogs. Well, I'm going to take a stab in the dark, but I'm going to guess that maybe this might have been an accidental shooting because nobody's arguing over anything and they're helping someone, they're getting along. Is it going to finally lead up to this being an accidental shooting? So I haven't read this yet. I read the first couple paragraphs because it was like, this sounds like trash. It's like, you know what, let's just do it all together because I'm crunched for time. I got more to do. So I just saw this. It's like, I'm just going to do this real quick. So King was agitated because the owner of the dogs accused King of letting them off their chains, which King denied according to the release. I don't know why anyone would do that, but I don't know what's going on. But if that doesn't make sense, though. King let him off the chain and now is going to go help them, get him. So what was that? Was that an accident too? Were they playing around? And you're not describing nothing. I'm lost by what they're trying to say here. Man, they better get on with it in this stupid thing. What are we going to find out in like the last two sentences or something? Even after the dogs were safely located, the release said, King remained agitated and the shooter visited him inside King's residence. Okay. Security camera footage from inside King's trailer. There's video camera footage inside King at a trailer. Okay. Showed the two talking, according to the release. When the shooter left King's home, King said, "Love you, bro." Okay, by all appearances, the relationships between Mr. King and the shooter at this point remained cordial. Okay, Smith said in a release. Man, this sounds unnecessary. I have a feeling whenever we get to what actually kind of finally happened, it's like you just told us a bunch of nonsense. The neighbor returned to his own home, but 50 minutes later, King was captured on his interior video security system running out of his residence, yelling incoherently, according to the release. The video showed him running across the street up to the front door of the shooter's residence, and he appeared to be beating on the shooter's door without making entry. So he's just banging on the door, but he didn't go inside, he didn't enter. The release said, and then about 20 seconds later, King began to walk back to his own residence, stopped midway, and then ran back to the neighbor's door and continued to beat the front door for approximately 15 seconds before Mr. King made entry into the shooter's residence. Okay, so he beat on the door, walked off, came back, beat on it some more, and got inside. But did he beat the door down or was he let in? It is unclear to me. Before Mr. King made entry, maybe it doesn't show because maybe the angle doesn't show if he just beat the door down, because it's like, well, was he just like beating on it hard or was he like ramming into it? Then 45 seconds later, King and the shooter emerged from the residence. There appeared to be a continued physical struggle until the shooter exited the covered porch, walking rapidly with the gun visible in his hand, the release said. King emerged from the covered porch, walking slowly and unsteadily, having already been injured by a gunshot, the release said. So, I don't know. Are they good friends? Kind of friends? Really just kind of neighbors and acquaintances? Maybe they're not good friends, because maybe it's just a neighbor then. Because it's like, do they hang out together? Do they barbecue together, eat together, watch movies together? Did they do anything together, or do they just talk every now and then? Am I being played here? Or are they throwing all this neighbor stuff in and that they're getting along to push it in King's favor? You know, because they're making it sound like they're kind of friends, but it's like, is that just something that I'm making up in my head without any kind of evidence? Because it's like, if they were really friends, then instead of just talking and being cordial every now and then, if they were really friends, then they should be doing things together. You know, it's like, are they, do they hunt and fish together? Do they work on projects? What do they do? What, they just randomly talk? It's like, you know how many people I just randomly talk to and I'm just nice and courteous with them, and it just means absolutely nothing. I mean, I have neighbors around here where it's like that. I tell you what, if they come up banging on my door, it's like, yeah, it's going to go down. Just because I was nice to them and talked to them doesn't mean that I'm going to be okay with them banging down my door. So, you know what? I guess after kind of reading it all this far, I'm going to say I need to keep that mindset of, you know what, they've been lying and throwing in this fluff at the beginning of this piece, so I need to kind of keep that mindset throughout until something else that shows me some kind of doubt with that narrative, and it's like, no, they really were kind of friends. It's like, well, then prove it. Don't tell me that they were courteous to each other. It's like, what did they actually do? What, one time they helped another neighbor get a dog or two that had gotten off its chain? It's like, well, what does that mean to me? And this is why I don't care what the neighbors saw. It's like, what were they arguing about? What was said? What happened whenever they were inside that the shooter's trailer? It's like, they don't know. You know why? Because they weren't inside. They said it was just King and this 40-year-old guy. They didn't say anything about a wife, girlfriend, children, or nothing. He collapsed on the ground. What? He collapsed on the ground a short distance. Maybe they meant to say he collapsed on his ground a short distance from the porch. No. He collapsed on the ground. I think his shouldn't be there. He collapsed on the ground a short distance from the porch of the shooter's home and died of his wounds. The forensic autopsy found King was shot 3 times. The first 2 shots hit his right leg and inflicted a grazing wound to his head. But the 3rd shot entered near the shoulder and traveled to the heart, the release said. The last shot was determined to be the injury that caused King's death. Yeah, and they didn't. So that young 40-year-old man there, it's like, even though he's younger than me, do not think that this is what people are, what you're seeing right here with me. I have friends and family members who are older, my age, and younger, and their health sucks. It's like, you can be 40, have problems with cancer, be extremely overweight. I mean, every problem that can afflict a person, you can have it can happen to anyone just about any stage in their life. So it's like, for example, was this guy fat or was he like ripping with muscles? If he's 40 living in a trailer park, I'm seriously going to doubt he's some kind of jacked up dude. He's probably going to be a little overweight. And they don't mention him with the family either. So if this guy is like some heavy-set white guy, and he just maybe is a bit of a hermit, doesn't socialize, and he just kind of talks to a few people around there. It's just, I mean, as far as I know, maybe he's just some kind of game. He's just playing video games all the time in the trailer there and just doesn't come on out, and it's just, I have no idea. They don't say. So why wouldn't they? Shouldn't they? Because if this guy is some kind of a loser, that's not going to help their case. Because if King, if he's a young guy who's in decent shape and has plenty of energy and isn't some 300-pound guy, but this guy who's 40, if he's like 300 pounds and he can't run to save his life or whatever, it's like that paints a completely different picture. Anyways, where did we leave off? The Crawford County Sheriff's Office said after the incident that King was shot after forcing entry into a neighbor's residence where the homeowner feared for his life. Well, yeah, if he doesn't know this kid, and they're strangers for the most part, that they're just neighbors that they happen to catch each other outside once in a while, and they just kind of chat for a moment. It's like, well, yeah, if you don't know somebody and they're banging on your door, it's like, what is he supposed to do? Guess about what's going on? It's like, does King have a gun or not? How many guns does King have? It's like, I don't know. I don't know about any of my neighbors here either. So how about you? They're neighbors. How is he supposed to know if King has a pistol or a gun or any kind of weapon whatsoever? Tell me about all your neighbors that live around you. Which ones have guns? Which ones don't? How many do they have? I don't know. I bet my neighbor over here's got a gun. I bet my neighbor over there's got a gun. Those two neighbors maybe could go either way. So, but I have no idea. You know why? I'm not Superman. I don't have X-ray vision, and I can't read other people's minds. So I have no idea. And so if somebody's busting in my house and I have a gun, it's like I'm going to go get it, because I'm not going to wait for somebody to break down my door, pull out a gun, and start shooting at me. It's like, you know how you don't get shot at? You don't bust down somebody's door. I've never shot at anybody for busting down my door because nobody's done it. Same thing in reverse. I've never been shot at busting someone's door down because I've never busted somebody's door down. I'm not stupid. I know that if I go busting down somebody's door, especially the less that I know them, it's like, yeah, I'm going to expect that the chances of me being shot are going to be pretty damn high. But fortunately, I'm not a dumbass. I don't do that, so I don't get shot at while I'm breaking down the door to a neighbor's house. The Crawford County Sheriff's Office said after the incident that King was shot after forcing entry into a neighbor's residence where the homeowner feared for his life. It's like, yep, you know what? Let's do this. You tell me where you live, and I will come bust down your door, and you can guess whether or not if I have a gun or not. And so if you don't agree with what's going on here, if you think that the shooter had no right to shoot him and that he shouldn't have had a gun or something like that, then we'll do that. You know, I'll come bust in your place. You can't have a gun. You can guess whether or not if I own a gun or not, and you can roll the dice and see how you like it. I can tell you right now exactly where I stand. I wouldn't like it at all. I don't want that for anybody. Because you know what? If it's good enough for the goose, it's good enough for the gander. And it's like, it needs to be applied equally to everyone. I don't care if you're black, white, man, woman, young or old. It's like, I don't want people breaking into somebody's homes and wondering and having to guess and read minds and play psychic mystic stuff to figure out if this is someone who's got a gun, who's going to commit some kind of harm, if they're going to get beat up or stabbed or whatever. It's like, no. It's like, if there's really something bad that's going on, then call the police, get the police, and have them arrest the neighbor. But it's not your job to be a vigilante and go busting in somebody's door. Or if you're just not happy with something that somebody did, it's like you don't get to throw a temper tantrum. You're an adult. Anyways. Where was it? The only person that says it's a home invasion is the guy that shot my son, King's father, John King, previously told NBC News, and all the neighbors are saying, no, you shot him in cold blood outside. Okay, well, they just said this was video footage. They said that the video footage showed him breaking in and then coming out shot. So I've had this happen before where, I'm not going to give that example. That has to do with my dad, and he can go jump off a fucking bridge. So Smith said the shooter was taken into custody and provided a detailed verbal statement of what occurred. In that statement, he told police that King allegedly yelled, "I'm gonna fucking kill you," as he was beating on the door. The second time King returned to the door, the shooter stated King forced the door open and ran into the shooter's residence, where he allegedly threw one television across the room and damaged another television mounted to the wall. After that, the shooter told police that he put a small .22 Magnum pistol in his pocket and ran towards the door. King then grabbed him and struck the shooter in the head, momentarily disorienting the shooter, the release said. So, you know, maybe this guy's not in horrible shape then. I don't know. They're not saying one way or the other. But even if it's a big guy, It's like they may not have endurance and they're not going to be able to chase you down, but if they get their hands on you. When the shooter made his way just outside the front door and King knocked him to the ground on the covered porch, according to the release. That's when the shooter revealed his pistol from his pocket and fired the first shot, aiming at King's leg in hope that would cause Mr. King to disengage, according to the prosecuting attorney's office. He then fired again and ran into the driveway. So, well, after that, the shooter told police he put a small .22 in his pocket, ran towards the door. King then grabbed him and struck the shooter in the head. Okay, so he went and got the gun, and then King grabbed the shooter and struck the shooter in the head. The guy broke into the place and hit him on the head. So if he hit him on the head, then is there like some kind of bump, inflammation that happened from being struck on the head? When the shooter made his way just outside the front door and King knocked him to the ground. Okay, so I guess the shooting did take place outside? Because isn't this what the shooter is saying? Who's Smith again? Smith is the prosecuting attorney, David Smith. So he's the one representing the 40-year-old guy. And so this is he's taken the statement from the 40-year-old man and said this is what the 40-year-old man had said. Yeah, but this is security camera footage from inside King's trailer. So King's footage is showing all this of him running over there, banging on the door, then banging a second time. The video feed showed him running across the street up to the front door of the shooter's residence. So maybe it's kind of high and it's going down at an angle so you can't see the door directly in some of the porch, perhaps. Or at some kind of angle where you can't quite see clearly. He showed more strength than I did. If somebody's banging on my door saying that they're going to kill me, as soon as that door goes open, it's like, I'm not going to play games. We're not going to go outside. You're not going to keep yelling at me. But if I was that fearful too, though, I would have been calling the police. But that's hard to say. It's easy to say it whenever you're not in the middle of it all. Because I've had plenty of things that have happened to me where it's like, I know I could have done more or could have done better or whatever. But whenever it's something that just never happens, you're not prepared for it. And so this is something, it's not like this is something that happens to people all the time. So, yeah. All right, so where were we? That's when the shooter revealed his pistol from his pocket and fired the first shot, aiming at King's leg. Now, I do think I would be together enough, even in a situation like this, where I would threaten him first and say, back off. Hey, I've got a gun. I will shoot you. I don't think I would just pull it out and just start shooting in hope that would cause Mr. King to disengage. The shooter said that in the short time between the visit to King's residence and the attack at the shooter's residence, he and King had no contact and the shooter had no idea what caused Mr. King's change in behavior. That's what I want to know. What caused all of this? They haven't said anything about what happened, what made King go over there and do all this. It's like it could have been anything from the guy went in and got high to maybe that other neighbor said, well, that 40-year-old white guy said you're the one who did all this with the dogs and let them go. And maybe that's what infuriated him. Went over there. It's like, you lied. I didn't do that. You know it. Maybe he had a phone call from that neighbor. So they're not saying a damn thing. At the inquest, officials said there was no video. Officials said there was video from both the shooter and King's homes, but only video from King's home was shown out of respect for King's family, according to Chappell. That's stupid. It's like, no, you need to know it all. That's not respectful. That's disrespectful. Do not treat them like children. They're not. They're adults. They need the truth. Because you know what? If he was shot in cold blood, then they need to know it. And they need to be damn sure of it. But if it's not like a cold blood killing, then they need to know that too. So nobody ever saw it, and we still haven't seen it. Chappell said a video from the shooter's home. Why not? This makes no sense. Has anybody seen it then? What about the prosecuting attorney, Mr. Smith? Has he seen it? But the prosecutor's attorney's office said in the release there was no video camera inside the shooter's residence. Oh, there's not? They can't even get this right. I mean, is there or is there not? Now, I know people that they have video camera surveillance stuff, but it doesn't go on 24/7. Because it's like, for one, where do you store it? Because that's a lot of information to store. And then how long do you save it? When does it turn off? Like, I know with quite a bit of it, it's motion sensor activated. So in that way, you're kind of, you're not just getting images of the grass growing, you know. So Smith said that during Tuesday's inquest, a panel of 6 county residents were provided a copy of Missouri's law on use of force in defense of persons. Under that law, a person lawfully occupying their private property can use any level of force, including deadly force, to defend themselves. That's tricky. So, in most places, you have a duty to withdraw, and that's because you don't know what's going on. So it's like, was King just high, or did maybe he was taking some new medication, and that new medication, along with some previous medication, caused him to do something that he normally wouldn't have done? And so it was more of a fault of prescriptions and his doctor? In that case, it's like, yeah, that's why you need to leave if you can't. If it's some older person and they have Alzheimer's, which I've had family members who have had Alzheimer's, they do not know what they're doing. They get confused. They get lost. I have several friends and family members where they're in the medical field, mainly nurses, but they'll talk about that stuff, about how, yeah, they will not know where they are. I've heard several stories where they will drive across state lines because they get so confused. And so if someone comes into your house because they're confused, especially if they're older like that, it's like that's why you have a duty to withdraw if you can. Now, with a trailer, it's like a lot of those you don't, because it's like the front door, back door. And so if you're back there in the back, it's like the living room is here, and then there's the 2 doors. It's not like they're on the opposite sides of the trailer where you have the front door, and if somebody breaks in, then you can go out the back door. That's in the back end. No, it's like the trailer is like this. It's long, like a rectangle, and then you got 1 door here and 1 door here. So if you're on one of these 2 ends, you can't. You're kind of trapped. Yeah. So it's within reason. And then, of course, if you're just caught right up there in the moment, it's like that's harder too. And so that's also real vague. It's like, it's probably, if you know that somebody's coming to do something like this and you lock and load your gun and you get into some kind of prone position waiting for them, it's like that becomes kind of entrapment, that you're kind of hunting and tracking them and laying in wait, laying a trap for them. In most situations, that's illegal. And that happened. Where was that? That was up in Oregon or something like this. I was going to college at the time, and I was taking a business law class, and we talked about this case because it happened during the time. Some kids were breaking into this guy's house, and they were doing it every single time that his pickup was away. And so one time he decided to just park his pickup somewhere else, and then he walked home, and he went down into his basement because that's where they were going for whatever reason. I forgot why exactly. So he was down there in his basement, and he was just waiting for him. And whenever they got down, they broke in and went down to his basement. He shot at him and killed one or two of them, and he was the one who got in trouble for it. It's because, yes, that's right. You are not the law. You cannot be a vigilante like that at all. That you need to get the police involved, or you need to hire security or something, but it's not you. It was just a bunch of kids. There was like three of them. I think it was like two boys and a girl, if I remember right. It was up there north somewhere in Dakota or Oregon or somewhere. And the police, he thought the police weren't doing enough about it. And it's like, what's stopping you? Really, if you think that this is going on, I mean, there's like plenty of ways that you can incapacitate someone without killing them. You just have to, you're going to have to do a little bit of work. And yeah, it sucks, but killing them wasn't the answer. Because they were kids. They were teenagers. They were in high school. So I don't agree with the kids and what they were doing with that, but I don't agree with that guy and what he did either. So anyways. The panel unanimously, so they all agreed, no one disagreed, they were all on the same page, voted that King's death was caused by the shooter and the shooter acted in lawful self-defense. 5 people who lived in the trailer park previously told NBC News they doubted the home invasion narrative, saying that the shooter was a man who had expressed a desire to kill someone and had a history of violence. Well, that's not good either. But if that's true, if he had a history of violence, then where's his record? Because I don't care about hearsay. I've known plenty of people who they talk a big game because people are easily scared. So, maybe he wasn't getting along with them, and he found out that talking this big lip service is just a way to get people to back off. I don't know. It's like, if he's really that way, then okay, great. Where's his record? The neighbor who shot King, who has not been named because he hasn't been charged, told NBC News on Tuesday following the inquest result, it's a horrible situation. I don't care what he has to say about it either. Chappell countered the prosecuting attorney's release by saying there's no evidence of the confrontation the shooter described. It's like, the video footage, it didn't show a shootout outside, right? It showed him banging in the door, but not a shooting going on outside? I don't know. It's like, well, if the prosecuting statements are wrong, then what are the right ones? Don't tell me there's no evidence for it. Tell me what the correct one is. Don't give me this fluff. Say the truth. Don't tell me there's no evidence. Say instead, the evidence of the video footage shows both of them outside and the shooter walking up to King and start shooting. Don't tell me there's no evidence. Just state the truth and state what happened. No evidence doesn't mean anything to me. No other person in the entire trailer park heard any threat from Justin King towards the shooter. What the hell does that even mean? Well, so what? The entire trailer park, they just were outside in chairs, sitting there watching the whole thing, said nothing. They were all just there watching the whole thing, and they knew to be there at that time, at that moment, because they knew this was about to happen. What the hell are you talking about? No other person in the entire trailer park heard any threat from Justin King. How would they hear it? Does the entire trailer park just sit outside in front of Mr. King's and the shooter's yard? I don't understand. Damn, what a dumbass statement. The shooter says there was loud yelling inside the trailer. This is a very small trailer park where the walls are thin. I do not care. You know what? If you've got a movie going on or a TV show or just the radio, it's like your attention is going to be on that. I don't know. I guess if they're yelling loud enough, that might get your attention. I don't know. I know that people, though, it's harder to get their attention than you would think. There's too many TV shows and movies that proclaim otherwise, and it's like that's fake. It's just not real. It's not the way people work. The neighborhoods and in the adjacent trailers didn't hear any of that, he said. It's like, are they supposed to? It's like, if they're busy doing their own thing, why would they know? It's like there's all kinds of noises. So, for example, I live very close to an extremely busy street. It's like insanely busy. I hear nothing of that. Now, whenever people come over, especially for the first few times, they hear it all the time, and it kind of bothers them. But after they stay for a while, they do the same thing that happens to everyone, and that it just kind of gets drowned out into the back, and you just automatically ignore it. And part of it is because you can only focus in on one thing. That's all that you can do. You can't focus in on a billion things. And it's like, if you think that you can, then do this. Take a piece of paper, 2 pieces of paper, and at the same time, have a complex mathematical problem, and then draw with the other one and do them both at the same time. And it doesn't even have to be that complicated. Just a big multiplication problem, like 236 times 12. Just something like that. Something that you can answer. Takes just a little bit of work, and then do a drawing with the other one. You can't do both. Now, if you were to do just one or the other, that you would be able to do it. But you can't do both at the exact same time. No, I'm going to work it a little bit. Oh, now I'm going to draw. Now I'm going to work this. No, both at exactly the same time. You can't do it. You focus in on just one thing. And so if you're busy doing something else, they spent more time trying to figure out and accuse Justin King than they ever spent trying to get behind the motives of what led to Justin King's death. Then why don't you do it? What's stopping you? How about you get busy and you tell us? That's your job. The prosecutor is there to help the shooter. You're the defense. You're there to help King. You're not there to help the shooter, just like the prosecutor's not there to help the defendant. You can go and you can ask these people. You can go to the police station. You can get all the reports. There's nothing stopping you. Chappell vowed to try and keep the case alive, saying, I think we'll have to seek the Attorney General, perhaps petition the governor, asking for a federal investigation. There's nothing stopping you. There's nothing stopping you. You can go and ask these people. You can go and get all the video footage. This makes no sense. I don't understand what he's asking for. It's like, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go and do this stuff. I mean, even with movies, that this is such a common thing that even with movies, you see it constantly, where both sides go around and they start questioning everybody. It's like, well, we need to hear it from you because we're building our case. I'm going to stop right now. Holy crap, it's 55 minutes long, but this is just part of the lies and nonsense that is just, this is going to take like 5 hours to upload now. So if you're tired of the lies and especially the fluff and just the BS narrative, keep watching because I want to do more of this. I like doing this. I like exposing the nonsense. It's like, what a waste. What a waste. Do you think that they could have summed this up better to get to the point? A hell of a lot clearer than this? The answer is absolutely yes. Give the video likes and a thumbs up, subscribe. I appreciate your support. Catch you again later. Bye.